Hey, what's up you guys? It's Mr. Mileena and I'm going to try and do a Mileena tutorial video basically on how to play Mileena, what I think of her, what are her strengths, her weaknesses. I'm not going to be focusing on combos or matchups. I'm just going to be focusing on general Mileena strategies, and basically if you're a beginner and you want to pick up Mileena, my goal is to hopefully help you out and give you a better understanding of the character and how to use her strengths to her advantage. So basically, first of all, what I think of Mileena is that she's a good character, but she's going to struggle to keep up with other characters. I don't think she's not viable. I think she's a viable character that will just have to work a little bit harder to keep up with like the top tier characters. Her mix-up game is really good, but it's one of those where she can get rewarded and she can get punished fairly easily as well. But her mix-up game is probably one of the top, it's up there. It's just the amount of mix-ups are insane, but her safety is really, it's not that great. She's going to be left unsafe if she guesses wrong. But anyway, so let's go ahead and get started. We're going to be talking about her standing 1, her standing 2, her standing 3, her standing 4, and then I'll break into like the back 1, forward 2, and whatnot, So let's start with standing 1. Standing 1 is 14 frames. Its range is not like terrible, but it's not that great. So I really would not recommend playing a footsie game with 1. A lot of people state in the forums that you should be using 1, 2, 3 all the time because you get the most damage out of it. So you need to be using this constantly to get as much damage as you can. While that might make sense, I would allow it, I would agree with it if it's a punish, if it's a negative 15 or higher, because it's a 14 frame standing 1, you gotta remember that. But if you can punish it, go ahead and do 1, 2, 3 into whatever combo you want, because that is one of the faster combo starters she has where you will get more damage. But if you're playing a fundamental game, a footsie game, this is not going to help you. There's no mix-up in this whatsoever, in the string. The range is terrible, like I'm right in his face and nothing's hitting. So I would not play a footsie game with this. I would not use this in your fundamental game. I would use it maybe after a jump in or to punish, but it's not really one of my favorite strings in the game for her. I don't really use it at all. But anything after 1 is safe. 1, 2 I think is like negative 2, 1, 2, 3 is neutral on block. I think 1, 2 is neutral actually. And like 1, 2, 4 is I think like negative 5, but everything is safe. Again, I'm not going to be taking into consideration Kung Lao's Tempest Spin. I think it's like a 4 frame startup. You can calculate that yourselves, but I'm excluding that. So for the most part, everything is safe after 1. So quick recap: don't use this in your fundamental footsie game. Use it as a punish if you want to, or after a jump in. So let's branch off with 1, with back 1 and forward 1. Let's do forward 1 first. Forward 1 is 19 frames. It's a double hitting move. This move is really great when you want to stuff a wake up. So if we go ahead and set up our dummy to do a wake up attack, you can do forward 1 to hit them out of their armor, as you saw right there. Let's do that one more time, and you can punish them for a combo. So let's go ahead and remove that. Oops. So yes, so it's a multi-hitting, great tool to have if you want to bait a wake up and you want to knock them out of armor. It's a really great tool to use. Forward 1, 2 is a 4-hit, all mid, hitting attack, and you can add a low by doing back 4 at the end of it, and I think it's only like negative 6. So it's fairly safe. And this is where her whole mix-up game, may come into play. You can do that into a roll and combo. You can do a low into an EX or roll to maybe increase your chances of actually having your combo hit. Or, my favorite thing to do with Mileena with multiple strings of hers is, we already know this is a low coming at the end right there, right? The 5th hit is a low. You can go ahead and do an EX roll before the 5th hit, and they're going to be conditioned to block low, because they're expecting it, and then you all of a sudden just throw EX roll, excuse me. So we'll get hit by that. So it's a neat way to incorporate your overhead and replace the incoming low attack as an overhead to really just screw up their how to block your attack. So it's just a cool thing. Her back one. Her back one is an incredible footsie tool. This is her best string in the game by far. It's an 11 frame startup on back one, and it's got fairly decent range, as you can see. Back one 2 says it's about -20, which is incredibly punishable, but it's incorrect. Back one 2 is about -4 or -5 at most. So I would definitely recommend you use this as a whiff punishing move, as a footsie tool. Check them with this. It's got a little bit of pushback on it, so you're left fine. You're going to be safe. You can option select a roll off of it, but I'm not a master of this. I'm still practicing the option select, so that basically means that if you do a back one 2 roll, on hit it will always come out. On block, the roll will not come out, and only the back one 2 will. But that's something I'll talk about later on. That's something I don't really know how to do right now. I'm not focusing on option selects just yet. But anyway, back one 2, incredible. Use it, please. She's an incredible footsie character just because of this string. Please use it. That's all I'm saying. I'm in love with this string. Her down one. For the love of God, this is one of the worst pokes in the game. As you can see, he's blocking and I cannot do anything. Good God. But anyways, it's fine because it's an 11 frame startup, -4 poke. So it's not like you're missing anything out of it. So please don't use down one. Down 3 is a lot better, and I'll explain that in a little bit. Actually, I'll explain it right now. So please don't use down one. Her down 3 is a 10 frame low, obviously, and it's only -1 on block. So please use this as your primary poking tool. Moving on to her standing 2. Her standing 2 is a 10 frame normal, and it is a high, but the thing about it is that you can do a very cool mix-up string. Let me actually off, which is a high-low overhead. Everything here is safe except sending 2, so you're not just going to do sending 2. If you do 2-1 or 2-1 at 4, it's safe. However, it's incredibly important to understand that before your up 4 comes out, they can backdash or armor out of, they don't have to deal with it. So just be wary of that. There is a hole in the string. So just some food for thought. Her back 2 is 19 frames. It is fairly, I just want to call it like a wannabe back 1. Like, this is 8 frames faster, this is 8 frames slower. So same damage, it's just a slower version. The only thing is you get a low after the first hit. I usually like to use this in my combos. I don't really like to use it in my fundamental game because everything there is unsafe. Back 2-1 is -6 and everything else is very punishable. So I would really just stick to using this in your combos. Maybe once in a while I'll throw it out there, but it's not that great. Forward 2-3. Before I explain this, I'm not going to be talking about Ethereal or Ravenous at all. I don't main those variations. I think Piercing's her best one, and I'm not knowledgeable enough to talk about Ravenous or Ethereal. But if you do use those variations, you're losing the back 1-2, her best footsie tool. So your next best footsie tool is going to be forward 2-3. It's 15 frames in startup, which is 4 frames slower than back 1, but the range is still decent. It's a little bit shorter than forward 2, but it still gets the job done. So forward 2-3 is -7 on block, so it's not the safest thing out there, but it's not incredibly bad in terms of safety. You can throw a low after that, so you can maybe do 4 to 3x roll. But if I were the reptile player or the opponent playing against Mileena, I would constantly block high because you're only going to eat a 5% sweep. I think it's 5%. Yeah, a 5% low. So why block low if you're going to do an EX overhead maybe when you have meter? But if that's the case, you get a 3 sweep. So if you have meter, they should more than likely block high. They refuse to block high, then you can incorporate your EX roll after that. So you know what I mean? It's a nice check. It's a 3-5% damage, maybe 6% with the chip off of forward 2-3. But basically that's what it means. This is a really nice tool to have because if you have meter, you can do an overhead. If not, you get a 3-5% and a hard knockdown, and you can do your forward 1 and just pressure them when they have to wake up. So it's a nice feature to have. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the video right now and start the second part. So make sure to tune in part 2 of this tutorial video. I'll be right back shortly.